We're going to start by taking a look at 2-3, which is on page 81. So go ahead and open your text or the textbook file up to page 81. And I know you're dying to draw the diagram, so go ahead and copy the diagram in 2-3. We're going to start on C. And it's not important that you get a ruler to draw the diagram, just that you get used to copying diagrams pretty quickly. We don't want to spend a lot of time, but you do want to be communicating the diagram each time you start a problem. The intersection of these two lines is at E, and we have the variable x that indicates the measurement of this angle here. You're asked to consider this diagram, which shows line AB and line CD intersecting at E, and we're told that x equals 23. Find the measure of angle AEC. The measure of angle DEB. And the measure of angle CEB. Now the important statement they make is show all your work. Well, how much is all your work? I'm going to show you what the formatting for a problem like this looks like. We know that the measure of angle AED plus the measure of angle DEB equals 180 degrees because they are each part of a straight angle. A straight angle has a measure of 180 degrees. And we're told that the measure of angle AED in this case is 23 degrees. So 23 plus the measure of angle DEB equals 180 degrees. That's the second step, and I believe you're writing what I'm writing. We subtract 23 from both sides, so the measure of angle DEB equals, is that 157? 180 minus 20 is 160, minus another 3 is 157 degrees. So when x is 23 degrees, the measure of angle DEB is 157. Is that one of the angles we're looking for? Here it is. And I can work around this figure using the supplementary angle relationships. Those are two angles that add up to 180. Not three angles, not one straight angle, but two angles whose measures combined equal 180 degrees. So let's go for the measure of angle CEB. I know that if I add that to the measure of angle DEB, I will get 180 degrees in measure. And I'm using proper notation here. Measure of angle plus the measure of angle equals a number. I don't know yet the measure of angle CEB, but I do know the measure of angle DEB. I subtract 157 from both sides, and I find that the measure of angle CEB equals 23 degrees. Well, that's interesting because that was the same as the measure of angle AED. And when I go to find the measure of angle AEC, I know that if I add it to the measure of angle CEB, I'll have 180, or the measure of angle AEC plus the measure of angle AED equals 180 degrees. And since we know that CEB and AEC are both 23, measure of angle AEC equals 23 that is plus 23 equals 180. So I have the measure of angle AEC also 157 degrees. So I've got two angles that are 157 and two angles that are 23. So AEC is my 157 degree angle, and CEB is my 23 degree angle. So there's an interesting relationship here, and we're going to think about whether this is a reliable relationship. These two angles across from each other have the same measure, and these two angles across from each other have the same measure. How reliable is that relationship? So take a look at 2-3E. When two lines intersect, the angles that lie on opposite sides of the intersection point are called vertical angles. For example, in the diagram above, angle AED and angle CEB are vertical angles. Find another pair of vertical angles in the diagram. So read that definition again. You're going to be asked to identify vertical angles in a drawing. The angles that lie on opposite sides of the intersection are called vertical angles. So vertical angle pair here. And a vertical angle pair here. In 2-4, we read that Travis noticed that the vertical angles in parts C and D in problems 2-3 have equal measure and wondered if other pairs of vertical angles also have equal measure. So we're going back to the diagram above, so draw that diagram again. I do believe you're drawing it again while I'm drawing it. You're labeling A, E, D, B, and C. And in this case, x equals 54. Find the measure of CEB. CEB if x equals 54. So they're looking for this measure here. So I need to work my way around the supplementary pairs to find that measure. So let's start with the idea that the measure of angle AED plus the measure of angle DEB, that's this guy plus this guy, equals 180 degrees. And we know that the measure of angle AED is 54 degrees. We're going to subtract 54 from each side, which leaves us with the measure of angle DEB equal to 126 degrees. Measure of angle DEB plus the measure of angle BEC So that is this guy plus this guy also equals 180 degrees. We know that the measure of angle DEB is 126, so we're substituting. Measure of angle BEC, when we subtract 26 from both sides, or 126 from both sides, is 54 degrees. So we're going to write a conjecture about vertical angles. I'm going to ask you to post your conjecture about vertical angles to tonight's discussion board. The text asks you to start with vertical angles ... and that's what I'll ask you to do on the discussion board. Let's continue with 2-5. A asks you to find the measure of angle MNP. First thing you do is draw the figure and label it as it's labeled in the text. And we're told that this obtuse angle is 152 degrees. The measure of angle MNP, vertex angle is in the center, is highlighted yellow. So the measure of angle JNM plus the measure of angle MNP equals 180. I know the measure of angle JNM, so my second step is to substitute. This step is important right here. 152 plus the measure of angle MNP equals 180. Subtract 152 from both sides. The measure of angle MNP equals 28 degrees. We have different information in B and a different drawing. Copy the new drawing. We've got congruence marks on these two angles. And I don't know what the measure of angle KGH is. What I do know is that the measure of angle KGF equals the measure of angle FGH, and I know that based on the diagram. They're marked with congruence marks right here. So let's substitute. 4x minus 5 equals 3x plus 2. That's an equation I know how to solve. Subtract 3x from both sides. Negative 5 equals x minus 5 equals 2. Add 5 to both sides. X equals 7. How can I check this? Is 4 times 7 minus 5 equal to 3 times 7 plus 2? 24 equals 28. 23 equals 28 minus 5. 23. True? True. But I am not asked for x. I am asked for the measure of angle FGH. FGH is this guy. They both equal 23 degrees. So let's go back for more than just x. And I'm going to get cut off right about now. So I'm going to ask you to finish C and D. So return to the written prompt to see what to do.